Well, I'm Dr. Pavan Duggal. I am advocate in the Supreme Court of India. I'm chairman of the International Commission on Cybersecurity Law, and I specialize in cyber law, cybersecurity law, and artificial intelligence law. First and foremost, India has made a historical movement forward by coming up with such a landmark legislation, being the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which is the DPDP Act. Because for the first time in 23 years, we now have a legal framework that can go ahead and regulate the use and the processing of personal data. However, having said that, there are a number of grey zones and grey areas under this new legislation. First and foremost, there's intrinsic conflict between this particular law and the mother legislation, being the Information Technology Act 2000. The IT Act is the umbrella legislation, and the DPDP Act is a small legislation under the umbrella. And unfortunately, the even concept of data has been defined in two different manners under the IT Act and the DPDP Act, which is likely to create more confusion and inconsistencies. Therefore, these will have to be harmoniously construed and interpreted in the coming times. Another big area of this entire grey zone of the DPDP Act is that ultimately this DPDP Act is about data principles, whose data is belonging to them. But this entire law does not give any remedy to the data principle. So should my data be compromised, misused, or published without my permission, I don't have any effective remedy. I can at best only complain to the Data Protection Board of India, and even if they give a fine of 250 crore rupees, that fine goes to the Government of India, to the Consolidated Fund of India, not to me. I don't have any criminal remedy under the DPDP Act. So effectively, the only remedy that I would have had is Section 43A of the IT Act, where I could seek for unlimited damages by way of compensation. That particular section has now been repealed. So effectively, you have left the data principles stranded with no effective remedy. This is bound to create a lot of heartburn and confusion in the coming times. Also, with the government being given a huge power to exempt governmental agencies from the applicability of this law, there are concerns that this particular power could potentially be exercised without adequate checks and balances. And that could lead to two distinctive kind of bubbles in the data ecosystem. There'll be the corporate bubble, which you will have to comply with the DPDP Act, and then there'll be the government bubble, which will not be required to comply with the IT Act. So this is bound to again cause more confusion or inconsistencies. And finally, I think here was a fantastic opportunity for India to go ahead and protect its data sovereignty. By not coming up with specific provisions on data sovereignty, India has lost a historical chance. Also, data localization, which was there in the earlier versions, has been given the complete go-by, which effectively means that the data of Indians is now going to float across the world in various jurisdictions and will be accessible by different state and non-state actors, which does not really augur well for the data sovereignty and the cyber sovereignty concepts of Government of India. But I think let's realize it that no technology legislation is perfect on the first way onwards. So now that we've come up with the first draft, I'm sure there'll be now opportunities where we can go ahead and amend this law so that we can make this law more effective. We can go for more branded and more robust protection of the personal data ecosystem in the Indian context. CISOs will now have to tighten their belts. Why? Because they have a Damocles sword on their head of 250 crore rupees fine should their organizations be found to be not complying with the provisions of the DPDP Act. So the first and the primary responsibility of CISOs is to ensure documented compliance with the provisions of the DPDP Act. I think DPDP Act will have to be recognized as a distinctive code in itself and will have to be adopted as a way of life by CISOs. Why? If you're careless about doing so, you're exposing not just your own company, but even yourself as the top management of the company towards unlimited damages of 250 crore rupees. Further, this CISOs will also have an opportunity to go ahead and harmonize, because it's not just only compliances under the DPDP Act that will be important. They will also have to ensure that there are appropriate compliances on cybersecurity given under the IT Act 2000, the IT Rules 2021 updated on 6th of April 23, and the IT Directions 2022. All this will have to be done simultaneously. On top of it, CISOs will also have to put in place appropriate reasonable security practices and procedures while they are handling or processing sensitive personal data. In addition, if the CISOs are in companies which are intermediaries under the IT Act, they will have additional layers of compliances in the coming times. So CISOs have their task very much cut out for. They will have to increasingly start focus on proactive compliances rather than subscribing to the Indian Jugaad school of management that they will do Jugaad at an appropriate stage. Now the way the laws have now been so defined, it's very clear that you will not have that flexibility of doing Jugaad or forging electronic records tomorrow, because electronic forgery is a far more serious offence under the Indian Penal Code, punishable with 7 years imprisonment and fine. So more compliances, more exercise of due diligence and more proactive preparation for cyber resilience will have to be the mantras for CISOs as they go forward in this direction. ETCISO event has always been a remarkable event chain in the calendar. I have been to so many events, but I think there's a unique kind of energy, a unique buzz in your events that you do. And as far as the Udaipur event was concerned, the ETCISO annual conference was a fantastic opportunity. Not just because you had such great speakers, not just because you went ahead and touched such remarkable aspects, but the kind of platform that you provided for networking with industry thought leaders, with various stakeholders in the industry, has been one of the very lasting contributions of the ETCISO entire program and the conference. I think ETCISO is like the glue that's joining the various dots in the CISO ecosystem together. You are a market leader. Congratulations for your thought leadership. And I really look up to the subsequent events of ETCISO, because that is actually setting the benchmarking standards for the entire ecosystem as we go forward. Today, CISOs want to come to your program. Why? Because they get to have access to not just the latest trends of knowledge and experience, but more significantly, they get an opportunity to interact with their industry peers, share their experiences, learn from international best practices, and also go back far more enriched, invigorated, and finally, more innovative approaches are adopted by them in their day-to-day operations as CISO. So congratulations on your remarkable work, and please keep up the good work that you have been doing.